Fox Sports NFL Insider broke the story on Amari Cooper from Cleveland. He's a freebie. Veteran, productive, quiet to the Buffalo Bills. Were you shocked they grabbed him? Had they been targeting him for some time?
They had been targeting him really over the last couple weeks. It was more Buffalo being ultra aggressive than Cleveland saying, we want to unload Amari Cooper. So what happened was, I think on Monday, they had a pretty good idea that could happen. And then Tuesday morning, they were going to touch base. The parameters were in place, and they were able to get a deal done. But with Amari Cooper, not only is he a great player, but in many ways, he's the perfect player for Buffalo. He's got 5 Pro Bowls. He's an 1,000-yard guy. We know all that. But his personality, I was talking to some people in Cleveland's building, and they said one of the great things about Coop, and he's told me this as well over the years, is you know what you're getting every day. He's not going to complain about not getting the football. He's going to run the right route. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. And as great as Stephon Diggs was, that relationship, Colin, had really run its course.
Yeah.
Cooper's going to come in, be a professional, plus he's going to be motivated. He's going to be a free agent after this year. And, oh, by the way, he's only making $800,000. This was a very sensible move by Buffalo. And should he play really well and leave in free agency, the Bills could get back as much as a comp 5 fifth-round pick. So a lot of really good value in general for the Bills. And I don't think they're necessarily done yet. I think linebacker and safety for them could be another move or two. Andre Sisco's a guy a lot of teams really like out of Jacksonville.
Kid, yeah.
Really good player. Devin Lloyd. So there's 2 players, Jacksonville, that people are targeting. I don't know if they're going to move those guys, but those are 2 names that I've heard as teams coveting. We'll see how Jacksonville does the next couple weeks. And then also, you know, if you're the Bills, you don't have Matt Milano, your Pro Bowler, back till December. You've had Terrell Bernard injured. He's back now, your linebacker. So that position is a need. And then at safety, you know, you're playing DeMar Hamlin. I think they would really love to use him more as a third guy and then bring in someone with more experience. So I don't believe the Bills by any means are done at this point.
All right, November 5th is the trade deadline. We saw Devontae Adams move, Amari Cooper. I mean, it's the wide receiver market. I mean, they can get you cheap, free, quick points. Very few teams are Green Bay where they've got a bunch of good ones and they're not getting paid yet.
They're all young. Reed, Watson, Dobbs.
They like all of them.
Yeah, and the tight ends. You know, Kraft and Musgrave. They got all those young guys on rookie deals.
You think the wide receiver market's going to be
explosive? So I mentioned Buffalo, right? One more note on them. 24th and 3rd down. When you, to your point, Colin, when you get a great receiver come in, that changes what you can do on 3rd down.
Keenan Allen went to the Bears for
Absolutely, and look what's happened with them. So. And then also a veteran can come in and change the perception of the locker room. There's so many things that a receiver can do that can really not just move the sticks, but change the perception of your offense. That is going to be an explosive market. And if you told me over-under on receiver trades from this point forward over the next few weeks, I would say over 5. I believe that is going to be the most coveted position, most active, most volatile position in the trade market. And remember, too, Colin, the trade market or the trade deadline was pushed back a week after. It was Halloween last year. Now it's a week into Thanksgiving. So teams have more time to evaluate where they are, or maybe more importantly, where they're not, Cleveland, and make a move. I think that's going to be the most volatile position.
Okay, Aiden Hutchinson did the best you could do to protect what has been a so-so Lions secondary. They're in a division with high-powered offenses. They can't just sit still. To me, Detroit, this is a Super Bowl window. You're seeing Buffalo go all in. I think they got to go all in. Is there anybody on the market not named Max Crosby? Because
the Raiders do not want to move him.
He's like the foundational piece.
Yes,
so anybody else out there for the Lions?
There are some really good pass rushers out there. I think what's going to come down to is for a team like Detroit, who knows they need to not even replace Hutchinson because you can't replace him. He's one of the 3 or 4 best defensive players in the league. But bulk up that defensive line, that pass rush. I would look at, there's probably 3 guys out there that teams are calling on. Zadarius Smith is one of them in Cleveland. Really good player, 3-time Pro Bowler. The issue for Detroit's going to be, how much do we want to give up? How much do we want to go all in this year, give up draft capital? Because Brad Holmes, the GM, has drafted so well, and that's going to have to be the push and pull.
I would make this argument, though. There are very few rosters in the league that could give up a first-round pick. They've got an edge rusher, their quarterback, productive wide receivers.
Great running backs.
Great line. It's a very good defensive end draft.
Yeah.
They've got Hutch. And so my take is there are very few teams that could withstand, hey, we can give the first-round pick up. Rams did that a few times.
It worked. It kind of worked. Well, we got a Super Bowl.
So give me a name out there on the edge. What about the kid from Jacksonville? There's
so you have Jacksonville has. They're not going to trade Trayvon Walker.
Okay, they're not.
I don't believe so. Former #1 pick. He's starting to come into his own. They just signed Arik Armstead. Oh. If you're looking at Jacksonville, I'll go back to Lloyd and Cisco. I think the name that's come up the most for teams wanting a pass rusher is Adarius Smith. Okay. Go back to him. There's a couple other guys out there I'm not willing to say are going to be moved necessarily, but it really comes down to where you're at and where you're not at again with the playoffs.
Okay, so I think Dallas is trapped. I think once you pay Dak what you paid him, then you have to invest pieces to help him. I mean, you can't, if you're going to spend $60 million on a B+-ish quarterback, who is more of a guy that can he's not going to pull an average roster, but he can certainly be pulled and win a lot of games. So my take is, I don't care if you're a tech company or a football team. If you make a massive investment on something, you have to make it work.
Yeah.
I think they have to find multiple first-round, second-round picks, go get the Boise State running back. Help him out. Derrick Henry, I thought last year was the pick. What is the problem to you? What are you hearing about the problem in Dallas?
You're absolutely spot on with Derrick Henry. He trains in Dallas. He lives in Dallas in the offseason.
He wanted to go there.
He would have absolutely loved to have been a Cowboy. Jerry Jones did not want to pay, for whatever reason, Derrick Henry, not even crazy money, and now he's leading the league in rushing. He's over 700 yards rushing, 6 games. He's unbelievable. The problem for Dallas is they have a lot of issues. Dan Quinn, over the last 3 years, they were top 10 in defense across the board in every category. They bring in Mike Zimmer. I'm going to give you the problem. It's the two Mikes, Mike Zimmer and Mike McCarthy. I'm not going to say that Mike Zimmer, the game has passed him by, but his philosophy is not working. And Jerry Jones takes no accountability whatsoever, goes after the local radio hosts, constantly saying, anybody that could be a GM, I dare you to be better than me. Jerry, wake up and smell the coffee, man. You guys have not won a Super Bowl in 30 years. You're not a relevant franchise
You're
right
not
now.
Close to a Super Bowl team now. Not close.
No, and I know they've had injuries with Diggs and Bland and Parsons and Lawrence, but they are, over the last 4 games, Colin, at home, 167 points allowed. That's the 3rd most in NFL history. They are dead last in run defense, dead last in points allowed. Even if Dak is playing at the MVP caliber level he was last year, they're not a Super Bowl caliber team. Yeah. So McCarthy and Zimmer, to me, huge issues. And then Jerry Jones really sitting on his perch, the biggest issue.
By the way, you can close the gap with a Belichick or Vrabel. Are those two guys even in the running for Dallas?
I would have loved to have seen Belichick be in Dallas. But then you have to have Jerry Jones see some of that control to Bill. Yeah. I thought Mike Vrabel's another guy, great coach, but big ego. You know, it's my way or the highway, and that can be really successful. He took Tennessee to 2 AFC championship games, but Jerry is going to have to let go of some of that control. Mike McCarthy's not that kind of personality, and until that happens, until I believe Jerry's willing to do that, I'm not going to go there.
You know, we've been on this. Green Bay and Pittsburgh are big brands. Green Bay, over the last 20 years, has said, we're just going to get offense right. You're often disappointed in the defense, but they always get the offense right. The Steelers have mostly been about defense, struggle to get the offense right. So now we're seeing a potential Pacific Northwest Russell Wilson supplant Justin Fields, and I just wonder how it plays in the locker room for a 4-2 team because Justin is so eminently likable.
And what he said yesterday said everything. He said, I don't think I played well enough to be the starter or to lock it in. And that's huge. He was loved in Chicago. Arthur Smith has talked about this. No drama. He gets it. I think one of the things that Mike Tomlin has always said is I am not going to have a starter, regardless of position, lose their job because of an injury. So Russell Wilson has the calf problem. Justin Fields comes in. He plays pretty well. They're 4-2. But I think Tomlin always believed that at some point with a healthy Russ, he would go back to Wilson. So now he's going to give Russ that opportunity, I believe, most likely Sunday night against the Jets. I want to get into Hassan Reddick, too, because I know we haven't talked about him. But one of the things that you're going to see is a different offense. With Justin Fields, they average about 5 yards per throw, 5 yards per attempt on play action. Russell Wilson last year was over 7. Yeah. They're going to throw the ball more down the field. That can mean more success for Freiermuth as well as George Pickens. Yeah. But also you lose that X factor because Russell Wilson in year 14 is not the mover that Justin Fields is. So even if Russell Wilson is starting, I still believe at some point You'll see Justin Fields have a package, and it wouldn't shock me at all, even with a healthy Russ, if they went back to Fields at some point this season. And then in terms of Hassan Reddick,
let's talk about that. So Hassan Reddick in Philly, Jets make a deal. They can't get him on the field. Hires Drew Rosenhaus, who's a deal maker. I do think between Devontae and Hassan Reddick, they are big third down players, respectfully, on their side of the ball.
Of course.
Devontae's a big third down target. Hassan, just kind of a pass rusher. That's what he does. But they need that because they lost Huff to the Eagles.
Yeah.
So what is the latest on him? But I mean, Woody Johnson keeps saying, come in. We'll drive you here. You're a Jet. Where are we on that?
Well, to your point about Drew Rosenhaus, he's a deal maker. He gets stuff done. There's a reason why guys go to Drew Rosenhaus, because he's going to get a deal done. It's not always going to be necessarily the best deal. He gets deals done. He gets guys paid. Okay, that's the truth. Yeah. The reality with Hassan Reddick is that he has, from day one, felt completely disrespected, disregarded, and has lost total trust in the Jets. I told you what happened. He was traded. He turned down the below-market offer. Before the deal, the Eagles gave the Jets permission to try and find that long-term solution. They didn't. They still make the trade. He has not been in the building really in 7 months. Hassan Reddick, there's three things that could happen. One, they could get a long-term deal done. I think that's the least likely. Two, they could restructure it because he's already accrued about $10 million in fines. And Drew Rosenhaus can tell him, if you do that, I will get you a 3-4 year, multi-million, massive extension in the offseason. And then three, Hassan can say, I don't want to play football this season for anyone. I guess there's a fourth, which is the trade. A ton of teams, including Detroit, have called about Hassan Reddick. Joe Douglas, at some point, we talked earlier in the week about, or I mentioned Salah when he got fired and Devontae. We talked about self-preservation, okay? What I've been told, and I have not talked about this, I think it's important to say. What I've been told by players and even a couple coaches is that there is a sense of fear, operating within fear inside that Jets building. Self-preservation and fear. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get day in, week in, and week out. I believe that Joe Douglas, if they don't win, is absolutely out. And I also believe that Joe Douglas knows if he doesn't get Hassan Reddick on the field this year, or if he doesn't get a player or a pick back, it's an incredibly bad look for him. He's going to have to bite the bullet at some point on a money situation or on a trade and get a pick back, or a player, but probably a pick, because to your point, he let Bryce Huff leave the building. They have gotten zero production from Hassan Reddick. They lost Jermaine Johnson. Their pass rush has seriously struggled. They need more there. They absolutely need more there. So Joe Douglas, at some point, is going to have to make a decision, and I think a lot of it's going to be based on self-preservation.
Jordan Schultz, finally, Caleb sort of righted the ship. Greg Cosell told us earlier they've sort of defined his passes for him. They've done a good job to not necessarily simplify, but define stuff. What are you hearing in Chicago?
So the first 2 weeks, they did not script plays for Caleb Williams. So they brought in Shane Waldron from Seattle, new offensive coordinator. Yeah. And I think that was a mistake. They didn't script plays. They didn't let him necessarily get in the flow right away. What have they done since week 2? They've been scripting 10, 15 plays to start the game. And not only have they been doing it, but I asked the defensive coordinator, what's the difference in Caleb Williams? He said the number one difference is that with the scripted plays, it's very specific to his skill set and getting him in a rhythm. A lot of quick throws, quick hitters, bunch formations, pre-snap motion. It's the perfect balance for Caleb to get into a rhythm. And then I asked Cliff Kingsbury, throughout his tenure at USC, we've talked about how he was there for a year with him, and I said, Cliff, what's the biggest misconception about Caleb? And what I thought he was going to say was the attitude, that he's a great kid. And he said that as well. But what he told me, and I'll never forget this, is Caleb Williams plays a lot better on structure in the pocket than he's given credit for. He makes these amazing Houdini-like plays outside the pocket, but he's great on time. Chicago now with Shane Waldron has adjusted their philosophy. Seattle with Geno Smith, like the 3-4 wide receiver, spread out, go vertical. Caleb can do some of that, but at this stage in his career, let's tighten the field, make it the short and intermediate throws, let him get in a rhythm, and that's exactly what's happened. I think that's why you've seen Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Odunze start to hit. Komet had 2 touchdowns last week.
Big weekend.
And they've also gotten the running game. DeAndre Swift the last 2 weeks has been the most productive running back in football. So Chicago is certainly finding a rhythm, but I think Caleb Williams, we talk so much about all the plays he can make. In the pocket, he's pretty special as well.
Jordan Schultz. Yeah, last week was pretty impressive.
4 touchdowns, 1 pick.
For a young team that goes overseas,
Unbelievable, man.
Against the team. I mean, let's be honest. The team they faced been over there a few times.
Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacksonville. That's a de facto home game.
Yeah.
I think those are two franchises going in very different
opposite directions. By the way, the Jacksonville gig, quickly. Doug Peterson's lost the locker room, according to you and others. Listen, Trevor Lawrence has regressed. He's still better than average. Is there a name I should watch?
For potential trades.
No, Jacksonville coach.
Coaching. Okay, so if they lose and they go 1-6, then they've lost back-to-back in London.
And also to the Patriots.
To the Patriots, and 11 out of 12. That's what that would be. The only way that they blow this thing up is if it reaches that Urban Meyer level. I was talking with J-Mac before the segment. That's the one time Shad Khan, the owner, has fired a coach in season. I don't think Doug Peterson's at that level yet because, as you know, with Urban Meyer, it was really rough in Jacksonville. But I do believe that he needs to figure out some cohesion with Trevor Lawrence. Press Taylor, he's the offensive coordinator. They paid him $55 million. I'm not ready to say Doug Peterson's going to get fired if they lose, but I can tell you that he's feeling the pressure. The organization's feeling the pressure. And we talked about Caleb helping your quarterback. They need to help Trevor Lawrence. They have all these good players there. Brian Thomas, Etienne, Bigsby, Ingram. They have Christian Kirk. They've tried to upgrade the offensive line. For whatever reason, they have not figured out the quarterback. And that's the biggest, I would say, biggest issue for Doug Peterson. He's supposed to be a quarterback guru. He has Trevor Lawrence, and they have not gotten it done. So, to me, that's probably the most interesting job in the next few weeks, but I'm still not ready to say they're ready to blow it up.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.